super long. All right, we're going. Um, so I wanted to start out today because I saw this post about resilience, right? And that's something I have a super that creates a really positive kind of connotation to me in my mind. We saw this post about resilience, and I shared it with you guys, Nick and Rebecca. And I thought it was so interesting because the person was taking that definition and kind of twisting the definition of resilience, and made it like really negative. It was like a really negative, like, don't tell me I'm resilient. And I'm sure, like, of course, like, not to, to pick on anybody. We all have our own pasts and things, but
Mhm.
I found it fascinating, and I was glad that you guys did too. And so it brought up this discussion that tied into something we started talking about last week, right? And but the whole thing was sort of like it was this theme of like make it easier for me. Like it really diverted responsibility is how I
Yeah.
felt about it. It was like, don't tell me I'm resilient. Like, find the perfect adjective for me, sort of. And
Yeah.
I get it. That's a big discussion right now, and we should be mindful of those things and how we talk to each other, how we describe each other. Totally super important. But I found the negativity of it interesting because we know that that negativity can be so addicting, right?
Yeah, I know that's the issue. That's the whole thing for me. Like this person, I remember like when I read that meme or whatever it was that you sent me, I was like, this person is so stuck in their negative mindset that they can't even look at this from another perspective. They can't look at this except for I want somebody to do this for me. I want somebody
Right.
to just make my life easy. It doesn't work
That's
like
a
that.
that's a powerless position, right?
Yes.
It's a
Yeah.
powerless position. It's putting it on everyone else. I can't do anything about it. You fix it, right? Or
Yep.
Throwing
yeah,
in the towel. You fix
such
it.
a such a pattern, right? And it's easy to be that way. I totally get it. But that's that pattern that we create, and it can really
Well, it's
stop
easy
us.
to be that way, but it's also really, really hard to be that way mentally.
Right. Yeah,
And
it
people don't even
creates a hard
realize that they're
life.
in that. Sorry, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it does all the things, right? It isolates us, right? Kind of pushes people away. And it's cyclical, right?
Mhm.
It induces, it creates its own problems, right? It induces anxiety. At least for me, I was like, oh God, I don't even know how do I approach this person then? And maybe it may be a good opportunity for a discussion, right? And we should approach those with open minds as well,
Mhm.
right? But um, that kind of, to me, I find that really negative, like taking the positives and how people intend things and turning them around into negatives, um, to be kind of dangerous, right? It leaves us stuck. So I guess what I'm asking, I'm like just jumped right into the discussion. Um, who else has that negative self-talk? I'm sure we all do, right? Especially when it comes to ourselves. So that's what we're really talking about today. So, all right, if you're joining us, I'm Brandon.
I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Nick. And as always, the purpose of these live trainings, talks, conversations, whatever, is to provide you with high valuable information and some things that you can do to actually move the needle in the way that you want, so you can get out of a hole that maybe you're stuck in. And today's topic, especially, is like I'm passionate about it. So if you're here with us in the group, do us a favor. Give us a thumbs up, drop a comment, do something to let us know that you're here with us, because today is going to be a good one. And if you're not here with us in the group, the Drop the Fat Not the Tacos group, you should definitely join, because you're missing out on all the cool stuff, including being able to watch these talks like live, and including challenges and the deeper community levels and just deeper levels of support, honestly.
Participate with us. You can have
Yeah.
be part of the conversation. It's great to listen. I'm glad you guys are listening if you're out there. But yeah, you can come in and ask the questions with us.
Absolutely. So to continue like with what you were talking about, Brandon, a lot of what you were talking about actually clicks with me because basically to me that screams out the word rumination, which is like it's stewing on something. It's keeping that thought in your brain, and it's just rolling it around, trying to take a different aspect of it. How did I, and what could I have done differently? And then if I did this, what maybe then there's another, and that's literally the thought pattern. It's just a million different directions all at the same time. And it can be a really dangerous path to run down. And this causes stress, anxiety, and pain for myself, as well as the people around me when I overthink those small little things. And it's usually something that I have, like a decision that I've made in the past, or sometimes I jump into the future, right? Like I time travel in the future, and I dream of things that haven't even happened yet, and I worry about them. Is this going to be, am I going to fail at this? Am I going to, whatever? Or are people going to laugh at me? There's a lot of things in there.
Totally. What could happen? What might happen?
Yeah, exactly. And like for me, this got really bad at a point in my life where there was a lot of, some of you might know my story. There's a lot of bad stuff that happened to me in a very short amount of time. But at the summation of it all, I ended up with a head injury and a broken neck. So I was stuck in like in a sitting position essentially. So I could stare at either the wall, or if I was laying down, I could stare at the ceiling. And with that head injury, it threw me into a terrible depression. And all I could do was sit and think. And so like, what do you think I thought about during that time? The only things that I had ever really done in my life, I started analyzing, and I realized how many things I had done wrong. And basically I came to the notion and the belief, which is worse, I suppose, than a notion, is how I deserved everything that had happened to me, every bad thing that had happened to me. And so with that belief, I continued to further damage a bunch of other parts of my world. And fortunately, I was able to figure some of that out. But it stemmed from basically a development of self-hatred. And I really didn't want that anymore. And so that's a big part of what we're here today for, right? To share some pointers and some tactics that can stop, this from running and ruining important parts of your life.
Totally. You said something so interesting, because like normally we would say like, belief is super important, super powerful. And that's the thing. It's super powerful. A positive belief can change your life.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
We got Gina here with us. What's up, Gina? A positive belief can change your life in such a huge way, right? You've got to believe. Got to believe. You just said a second ago, like a belief is worse than a notion, because in a negative way, again, that belief being so powerful can take you so far the other direction.
Yes, dude. And that's a big part of what I had to really grasp onto was, I'm creating my own, I'm propagating my own self-hatred. I didn't understand at the time. I literally felt like the universe was punishing me.
Yeah, it's such a rabbit hole, right? It's like such a, again, self-perpetuating thing.
Yeah. And so I had to through a bunch of crazy steps and whatever, I had to grasp onto the idea that I could change if I could grasp onto another belief of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly why I'm here today, I think. Because
because
we were able to do it.
Yeah. I agree with you, Brandon. I think that I totally see it as falling down this emotional rabbit hole for sure. And I get angry and I get frustrated, and then my anxiety kicks into overdrive and everything just snowballs, right? And then there's that feeling of losing control. And now I'm not the best version of myself. And I overthink everything I say, everything I do. I'm a terrible person. And I did that wrong. And the next thing you know, we've all experienced this with the COVID seclusion. Oh, I deserve this. Just like what Nick said, this is why things are so bad. This is why I have it rough. And that's overwhelming. And it certainly doesn't help anything.
It turns into a nightmare.
Totally.
It's just 100%. Dude. It was my life for like 3 months.
Such a painful way to live. Yeah. And so with you, if you're listening or if you're live with us in the group and you can respond, does this happen to you? Right. This negative talk starts and then you're kind of off to the races,
That's a great way to put it. Unfortunately, it is a great way to put it.
Yeah. It really just goes right. And before you know it, you're just in a different place. And like Rebecca said, like you're not yourself.
Snowball.
Yeah. Monster. And we brought up that negative self-talk becomes addictive. That's so true, because I don't know about everyone else, but anything I do, more than once becomes an addiction. It's easy to fall into that pattern before you know it. Maybe it's just me, but I know it's not.
No.
It's easy to fall into that pattern. And it just becomes how you talk to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many times a day, like, our default, totally. And it's so freaking ingrained in there, like so bad. Nick, you know it. Like every time I mistype something, I'm an idiot. Dude, what is that?
Dude, you did it just before we came live too. I was like,
no. And it's so funny because now I'm so aware of it. I'm like, oh, there's that monster again.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck that guy. Like he's got to get out of here.
But it becomes habit, right? Yeah. You just always say negative things about yourself. And next thing you know, everything is negative that you say to yourself.
Right. But particularly I find, and when it comes to anger, anger is such an interesting emotion. So now again, like if you're live, tell me if this is true for you, Nick, Rebecca, but someone pointed out to me something that I just found so interesting about anger, unique about anger. Anger is the only emotion we don't want to stop. It's the only negative emotion that we don't want to stop when we're in the moment. Sadness, I want that to stop. Frustration, I want that to stop. Anger, I want to keep that fire burning. I want to break all the shit. I want to I want to burn the town down when I'm angry, and I want to keep going. Don't even think about telling me to stop, right? And that's so interesting. Like when you're pissed, you want to stay pissed. And so 100% true for me. And our language just keeps that fire burning at a million degrees, right? And so it becomes this, again, the self-perpetuating thing. Once that anger starts, and the self-talk just keeps the fire burning and keeps it rolling. And that's usually my problem personally, right?
Yep.
That anger starts and sets me down that path.
So you just, first of all, I'm going to throw in somebody just had a comment. When you hyper focus on one thing, you lose perspective. What you just said was perfect, Brandon, because like when you become angry and all you want to do is be angry at it or them or the thing or whatever, you lose perspective. Yeah. It just becomes a tunnel.
Yep.
And it's funny that you brought this up actually, because I've suffered with depression my whole freaking life. It's real. I get it. Yep. But for the longest time, up until this time I was talking about just a little bit ago, it kind of surfaced itself as anger, and I almost liked it. Mm-hmm. Like looking back, I was okay with that, with who I was being towards other people, because sometimes it got my way. I was able to get my way, or people got out of my way, and that part of me became kind of, I was kind of addicted to it at one point in time, and I didn't even realize how bad it was.
Yeah. It can be empowering. It releases all these crazy, neurotransmitters. I mean, it's like, it's a potent mix, right? Mm-hmm. And it serves a purpose, right? I mean, this is a survival mechanism. Anger defends you, right? Makes you dangerous when you need to be dangerous, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
but yeah, so we're designed to latch onto that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rebecca, I know we've talked a little bit about this. Do you find this to be true with you? And how have you dealt with it?
Anger is a tough one, and I definitely agree that that's something really challenging to escape from once you're there. Because, like you said, it feels like you're safe there, you're protecting yourself. And at least that's how it feels for me, too. But I've spent a lot of time, especially in this past year, with everything that happened with the shutdown and the pandemic, really trying to manage those negative feelings like anger and frustration. Have had to go find other people that can help me in those areas and give me tools and tips on how to make sure that I can contain that, for lack of a better word. So I process my feelings instead of stewing in them. And really, the most important thing for me is I constantly, constantly need to remind myself to have patience with myself, patience with others, and try to put myself in their shoes. Just like what Nick said, his depression expressed itself in anger. So if everybody he's angry towards just goes, oh, well, forget Nick, he's just an angry, mean person, that's not going to get anybody anywhere. But if you put yourself in their shoes, it's really, really, really hard to do. But it keeps things from escalating. Because if I'm looking at Nick from this comes from a place of hurt, not a place of anger, then I can kind of meet him in a better place and maybe not be so angry. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, definitely. Also, like taking some inward reflection, and this doesn't. It comes back from I'm able to look at myself, who I was then, and who I'm now. I know that a big part of it was insecurities for me. It was, and I still have this, but I cope much differently. But I've always had this, and this is a belief. We're talking about beliefs again, right? I had this belief that I wasn't good enough, and I know a lot of people share that belief. And I'm not good enough for my spousal unit, whatever it was at the time. I'm not good enough for my friends because whatever. There's just this constant, like we talked about earlier, that snowball effect. It just keeps building. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And so for me, I acted out in aggressive ways. But then I know that it, like you said, it expresses in many different ways for a lot of different people.
Agreed. Yeah. Those feelings of inadequacy, right?
It's usually where anger comes from.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? What's the way out? I mean, I think that's just such a different thing. Rebecca, you kind of talked about like recognizing it and the mindfulness, right? And
mindfulness for sure. I have worked with some wonderful people who have pretty much said the exact same thing. You got to focus on mindfulness and focus on the present moment. And, you're not going to get anywhere if you just stew and be angry.
Yeah. Take yourself out of that moment. Sometimes for me, those like mindful minutes or meditation minutes.
Absolutely. Meditation is great.
It's definitely important. I'm going to kind of jump backwards a little bit. We were talking about resilience earlier. I don't remember exactly what either of you said, but I would like to ask right now so everybody else can hear it. Like, what is Rebecca, you said something that I liked a lot, but I can't remember what it was. What does resilience mean to you?
Oh, no pressure. I don't see resilience as being, you can really, you just keep taking a beating and you get back up. It's about how you get through the bad times in life, right? It's not about, did I do this gracefully? Did I do it perfect? Am I coming out on top? It's, did I get through it? And I'm resilient because I learned something from everything that happens in my life. And I get through it, not because I'm the toughest person and you can just throw anything at me. I fall apart. I cry and, I have rough days and it's not perfect, but I get through it by feeling my emotions and allowing myself, again, to be mindful and present and just own those feelings instead of trying to bury them.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Because I don't remember exactly what the meme was. I got a really bad short-term memory, but it was something along the lines of like, resilience means I have to be strong all the time. I don't want to be strong. I just want things to be easy.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. You don't have to
like,
be strong all the time.
yeah, it totally, like, it grabbed me and I was like, wait a minute.
Mhm.
Like, that's not what resilience means, you know, like,
No.
uh,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
me,
You
go ahead.
continue.
I think something that makes me really resilient, and those who know me, I mean, Brandon knows this for sure. I'm resilient because when I have a moment where I'm hurt and I'm sad, I have my support system and I call the right person. And it's usually a certain photographer that we all know that I just call and I vent to her and I tell her everything that's going on from my
Yeah.
very, very petty perspective. And just knowing that I have support and where I have it, and having a weak moment and knowing it's okay to cry, to get upset, to be hurt, that makes you strong by being able to recognize that and recognize your feelings and deal with them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's adaptability to me.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to be all those things, to be dynamic,
Yes.
right? To not be one dimensional. I don't have to be strong all the time,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? I can,
Yep.
fall apart.
Yeah. I actually like to think of it like a rubber band. And like you
Mm.
just said fall apart, so it made me think of it. But like a rubber band holding a deck of cards together.
Mhm.
Sure. That it can do it. It can hold that deck of cards together. But if you smack it from the right angle, those cards are going to go everywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
But we can pick it back up and we can get it back in the right shape and we can put it back together.
Yeah.
And that's, I think it's
I like
about being flexible.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just,
Absolutely.
but it doesn't mean like you're not going to have a bad day,
Mhm.
Right.
but it's being able to come back, to bounce back from something.
Right.
Yeah, there's a
I'm-
difference to where you're not sitting in the negativity and just letting that take over. And next thing you know, all you focus on is the negativity. And let me just tell you all this bad stuff that's happening. And then days go by and weeks go by. And it's just,
That's all
like
you can think
Brandon
about.
said, you're addicted to it.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Well, self-talk is a response, right? It's a response to some sort of trigger, whether it's fear, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, right? And being able to be mindful in our response, even within our own heads,
Mhm.
right, is so I was going to say important, but it's empowering, right? That gives us, right? Most of us, we're looking for control somewhere. We want to be able to control our situation, and of course, it's not always possible. But having a little more grasp on what is going on in your own head is a super empowering thing, right? Most of us just assume like, my thoughts come and that's how it is. I have zero control over it. I don't think that's necessarily true. And I think we can make some of those things, some of those thoughts, we can change how we think, as our kind of our go-to by practicing this positive self-talk, getting out of that negative self-talk. So how about this? Is there such a thing as too much positive self-talk? Like like the dark side of positivity. Because I think that's actually how this got started last week. But Rebecca, you so eloquently brought up fairy tales and unicorn farts or something like that. Like everything is just magical.
Yeah. I want to be the first person to raise my hand and say that I absolutely hate those stupid positive affirmations. I was told for years and years and years by every coach, every trainer, every sales manager that you need to tell yourself positive things until your subconscious believes it. And that subconscious is going to tell you you're wrong, but you just keep telling it you're wrong. And what that did was devastating to my progress. That doesn't work. And it didn't help me with any of my health and fitness goals. Because what would happen is I'd look in the mirror and I'd tell myself, you're beautiful, you're a successful woman, you're confident, you're comfortable, blah, 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 all that stuff. But it wasn't true. And I knew it wasn't true because I didn't believe it. And because I didn't believe it, I would find myself crying because I wasn't beautiful or successful or confident. And I really wanted to be. And saying it doesn't make it true. It just reinforced that negative voice in my head that said, you're depressed, and you're depressed because you're ugly and you're not successful. And
Oh my
it
God.
just was toxic positivity. And I hate it.
What?
Just, my 2 cents.
Wow, no, that's fantastic. I am
It's
certainly
horrible, but like,
It's horrible.
yeah.
very interesting.
Um,
Yeah, it's an interesting response.
Definitely.
Mhm.
I am all about rewiring the mindset. I actually want to dive into it a little bit here in a bit, but rewiring your default. I mentioned it earlier, like your default thought patterns, so that you're not thinking those things anymore. But it definitely comes. There's more than just repeating the same thing over to yourself over and over.
Mhm.
There's much more to it than that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was kind of like, that can be sort of just meaningless.
Yeah.
Right.
Because just like what you said, Rebecca, like there's something in the back of your head that doesn't believe it. So why are you just nailing that same thing over and over?
Right.
There's nothing you can do until you kind of attack that root of the belief.
Right.
Yeah. Because I mean, we can't fool ourselves, right? Can't just tell ourselves a bunch of bullshit.
What it is too. Honestly, I hate to say it, but that's what. And if it works for some people, that's great.
Yeah.
But I don't. I think they're crap.
but I think it's important to reinforce the positive things and remind ourselves of the positive things we do believe, because I do think that we don't, like, I mean, I really do that, and I'm like the one who absolutely hates like any of that woo woo, like I'll sniff that out, like I don't like it, but that you have to believe, right? And then I think that's, affirmations can have some power that way, and like I said, I'm like the biggest non-believer ever, but I think what I encounter a lot, I think especially in our industry, right, the health and wellness industry, is like this very blurred line between positive self-talk, reminding ourselves of our beliefs, and reinforcing those things and making our beliefs stronger, right? There's this big blurred line between that and dismissive or rationalizing self-talk, right? And I'm very good at making excuses or exceptions for myself in the name of self-care, nurturing my soul, right?
We've talked about this before. Remember that there are
right?
boundaries or bubble baths, and like which one's going to take you farther.
Yeah. But that's it. Like we plop these labels onto things that are really masquerading on as self-care, nurturing ourselves, bullshit. I mean, I know that.
Think about like that makes me think of like yogurt commercials that are like they use the word decadence and like you deserve it and it's loaded with sugar and you're gonna love it. Yeah, you are gonna love it. But then are you gonna love yourself an hour later when you're like can barely keep your eyes open?
Yeah,
and your brain's telling me, give me more of that.
Yeah, right. It is. It's a balance. But yeah, I hate that. And I obviously, like, you guys know me, like I vacillate very much between, I don't know, spiritual woo-woo, crystal worshiping woo-woo-ness. Not really. I don't go that far. But like I kind of not bounce, but I'm always trying to strike that balance between between that real like nurturing and then kind of, I don't know, street level abrasive tough love realness.
And I think what you're trying to say is like, so like we talk a lot about like the mind, the body, and the spirit, and a lot of people get turned off when we say the spirit because they're like, hold on, don't talk to me about that crap.
Are we talking about religion? Are we talking about fairy tales?
Like, don't push that crap on me, like
more unicorn farts, guys. Here they come.
Yeah, exactly. Like, here comes the soft BS. Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what people
believe
think.
in yourself and it'll happen.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about the spirit. The spirit is who you are, your core. The spirit, the heart, the soul, all of it is the same unanimous word.
What makes you you.
Exactly. And that part needs to be nurtured too.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the balance. It's important to be kind to ourselves in how we speak to ourselves, right? But we also need to be real with ourselves, The rationalization is a killer in my life. I have to be real. I have to be honest. So the trick is to be real without being cruel to myself. Real but kind, right? You guys like I talk about the two parts of our brain, the elephant and the rider, right? And the elephant is the ultimately unstoppable animal part of our brain, right? Powerful. That's the deep stuff, right? And the rider is the newer, higher thinking, analytical, watch where you step, think ahead part of our brain. And those are kind of the two voices, on kind of on each shoulder. And that rider gets frustrated with that simple elephant. And the elephant does what the elephant wants to do. And the rider needs to appeal to the elephant, motivate the elephant, not but we get frustrated. The rider gets frustrated, and the rider tends to beat the elephant instead of appealing to the elephant, right?
That's a really good way of putting it, though. Like, that's 100% true.
It's true. I just had this talk with somebody, and it's like, you can't yell at the elephant. Don't belittle the elephant, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's not so it's clear. The elephant is you. You're still the elephant, and
you are the elephant.
You're the elephant, right? And you can call it whatever you want. Some people, it's the inner child or all of that. I don't get too deep down that, but what does the elephant do when you yell at it and beat it? It runs off and eats cake and pizza and stuff until
it needs to feel better.
Yeah. Right. It needs to be nurtured. And then the rider is mad again. And it's the whole cycle. So, guys,
perfect example. Yeah. Perfect example. I rationalized myself out of going to the gym last night. I know I needed it. I know it would make me feel better. But instead, I had a cookie.
You spent all day beating up on your elephant. And it was like, no, we're not going to the gym because you've been yelling at me all day. And I have no motivation. No, you got to motivate that elephant, right?
Yep.
Not just because it's the right thing to do. Don't beat the elephant, but because it's an elephant. At the end of the day, it's going to do what it wants to and will rebel, and you will be powerless to stop it, right? That comes down to the whole willpower thing and the how limited our willpower is. Right? How finite our willpower is. And that's, you can't expect to live on willpower. So I know this makes sense to some of you because we've had the talk, but I hope this makes sense if you're just hearing it for the first time. Be kind to your elephant. So Nick, you're kind of the resident expert at intervening in this negative self-talk. How do you deal with it?
I mean, I might know some stuff, but I still struggle. Like I struggle just as much as anybody else. But basically what needs to happen is so when it comes to it's a default. I keep mentioning it. Your brain has a default, and it's what you have always done. Or it's what you have fallen into, the pattern you have fallen into. And we have to interrupt those thought patterns, especially if they're negative thought patterns. And then I said it earlier, like I'm all about rewiring those thought patterns and the neurological pathways and the ways that like our brain takes us to get to a specific thought. It's wild. And I could go super deep into this, but your default mindset is kind of a jerk, right? And so
it can be.
Yeah. Can be. So in order to rewire it, like Rebecca, I might call you out here in a little bit. So basically I have this thing. I call it the AMP. Some of you probably know about it. If you don't know about it, you should join the group anyway, because it's real. Anyway, it's basically you're developing a plan, and it's a way to notice your triggers. And then you're developing an action plan based on those triggers. And something else you really need to do while you're doing those is to question, when you go into that default thought pattern, you need to question those thoughts. You almost need to take your emotions outside of the situation, even though it's really hard. And you're thinking like, you know what? Is this real? Do I actually feel this way? Or is it, am I really being all that stressed out by this thing or whatever?
Yeah, where's this coming from?
Yeah, exactly. Where am I feeling this? Is this an actual real thing that's bothering me in life, or am I letting it? Am I creating something that's bothering me? But my preferred method of like figuring out those triggers is I know not everybody is into writing stuff, but there's so much science behind writing things down. And you will have a much deeper understanding if you write these things down. So a lot of things you can do, but writing it down, figuring out, what is making you feel that way, and then write it down just so you have an understanding of what that trigger is and what it does to you. And then at that point, there's a lot of things that you can do for the interruption as well. But I think one of the most powerful things you can do is literally just take a minute and notice how you were feeling. Brandon, you said it earlier, like just a minute of meditation, just 60 seconds. Sometimes is all it takes. And
I want to say really quickly, I hate that word meditation because
me too. I don't.
Yeah.
It's very demanding
of like nothing, like literally pause, reset. That's all it is for me. Quiet.
So that's the thing. So like, it's really hard for some people to just turn that off, which is a big part of what today's topic was. Like, it's really hard for me to turn it off. So like meditation is too demanding, but for me, I like to try to hear the sounds of other things happening around me, whether it's, like just now the vent kicked on, or my dog's wheezing in the background because she's sleeping, or the plane's going overhead. Like I try to focus on those things, and like, that's it. Because that can be nothing as well,
Totally.
I don't know if I've ever shared with you guys, but when I used to work in sales and I literally spent my entire day starting at 7 a.m. until about 6 p.m. driving around going to my different clients, every time I would get to a client's office, I would sit in the parking lot and play a game on my phone just to decompress from the traffic. It was something that my coach at the time told me was very important. It usually took anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes, depending on the game. And I would just feel so much better. And that was my form of meditation, just taking 2 to 5 minutes to just decompress after being stuck in Bay Area traffic. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I do the exact same thing in my car. Every time I stop my car, I just sit there for a minute.
Yep.
Yeah. I used to actually tell people the exact same thing. Like people who are like, I never have a minute to myself. I'm like, yeah, sure you do. Like when are you going to go to the grocery store? Sit in the parking lot. Just either before or after you're done grocery shopping, give yourself 30 seconds without the radio, without anybody else in the car. And just sit there. And that's it. And just shut your eyes and try to relax. And that might be your only minute of the day, but that's much more than you had yesterday.
True.
Yeah, totally. I think we talked about this a while ago as well, is just silencing that kind of inner critic. And I literally have to say it. Stop it.
Yeah. And so that's actually, it's one of my favorite ways actually, is to just say the word stop. Like if you figured out your triggers and you can catch yourself in a bad thought pattern, and this is something I do a lot, as well as a couple other tools, but this is one of my favorites, is stop. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that. So stop.
Right.
Stop it. And you got to do it quickly, and you don't hesitate, because otherwise your brain's going to grasp back onto that same thought and it's going to bring it back.
Yeah, totally.
But like we were talking about earlier, when you do that, like you're not done. Even if the thought goes away, you're not done. That doesn't solve the problem. It could be the end of that thought, like I said, for the moment. But, there's, like I said, there's a million different pathways for your brain to put that thought back in the forefront of your mind. So you've got to keep doing it. And then immediately after you stop that thought, you find something different that is good to focus on. Like if you're angry at a person, you find, okay, so stop. Why am I angry at this person? Is it real? Like it probably is real in that moment, but like tomorrow, are you going to be bothered by it? So stop. And then think about a good time with that person, something that's going to take you out of that mindset. Maybe it's a good memory with the person, or maybe it's a really good food that you had with that person, or maybe like this could go any route. You could be angry, you can be sad, you can be caught in a cycle where you just can't shut that brain off,
Mm.
just think about something different. That's
Yeah.
good. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter what it is.
Or turn on that distraction. I mean, for me, like I have to get into action. Like that's just how I am. Like that's part of why the writing helps. I think when you write these things down, it's like boom, out of my head into my hands, and that's a good place to be.
I agree. But sometimes, and those are good and productive ways to do things. But if you're doing that to avoid what your brain is trying to take you to, it's just going to come back. It's just going to keep coming back. Your brain will grasp onto that thing at every opportunity. So that's why, like, and I agree, like writing is super huge, but it's not just to get it onto paper. It's so that you gather deeper insight in a different form than your brain is used to.
Further into action, right? And when I say action, I mean action and like doing something about it. I mean, not like action, like I got to go run. The action.
I see what you're saying. Definitely doing something about it. But Rebecca, I mentioned earlier, so you had mentioned something earlier about the amp. So like, this is a shameless plug of our own stuff here, but what was your experience with that?
So, like I said, I hate positive affirmations. In case anyone missed it, I really don't like them. Like, I hate them. I absolutely despise them. But the difference was when I started doing the clean coaching program and doing AMP with Brandon and having something that I could say to myself every day, it was different because you're sitting in the feeling. And I'm going, when I accomplish this goal, this is what it's going to feel like. And so something that is actually really funny, because everybody thinks that I did the clean coaching program to be a crazy fitness nut and to be buff. And that was all I was concerned about. But initially, my first and primary concern was my gut was off and I was uncomfortable and I was miserable. And I was, not that I could, but I was afraid to leave my house sometimes. And I knew what I had to do, but I was just not doing anything. So every morning I told myself, what is it going to feel like when I don't have these digestive issues anymore? Feel that, be in it, be present in that for a moment. And that was a huge motivating factor for me to really take the advice I was getting from both of you and implement everything, because I could feel how good that felt. I wasn't lying to myself and saying I was already there. And it was just really nice to be in it and to feel it. It totally changed the game for me.
Yes, that was.
Sorry,
I'm like, I'm totally cutting that piece out and use it in other things.
I mean, we watched just a tremendous thing happen for you when you started doing that. It was just, it was such a huge turnaround. So much so that you're here, part of the team.
Seriously. That's amazing. It's crazy. Crazy story.
Yeah. I hope that this has given people who are listening some sort of, I don't know, understanding, or at least the recognition that, everyone deals with this stuff.
Definitely.
And I know it's not like there's no magic, like, I don't know, positive affirmations until your life is like perfect. Like, there's no magic pill anywhere for anything. But it's a process, and there's steps we can take, and we do the work. I mean, it's hard to be to be in this business and not be the 6-week challenge, like everything's going to turn around in your life, and you're going to see magical results, people, because that's what sells. But it's God, I hate it. Like
unicorn farts.
Unicorn farts. We have to be real, right? Or the whole, like, what's your excuse, right? Like that whole, like, just gut it out, like endless amounts of motivation.
Either we're going to change your life in 6 weeks, or like you're going to change your life and you're going to hate yourself for 6 weeks, but then it'll be okay. But then you're going to have to do it again.
Stop being a sissy. Yeah, that whole thing. Right? We talked about that quite a bit last week. So, so guys, I think we'll wrap it up. We've been here for a while. Please if this makes sense to you, or even if it doesn't make sense to you, okay, if you're not in the group, in our Facebook group, come to our group, ask the questions, let us know what's on your mind. We love you guys. I mean, we really do care about this community. It's our livelihood, and we want to be able to help on whatever level we can. If that's just a quick, like, yeah, here's the answer to your question, or if it's a one-to-one relationship. But if nothing else, come hang out and say hi and have fun and be part of what we're doing over there. But if this is something that you struggle with right here, let us know. Right?
Yeah, because you're definitely not alone.
Yeah, share the ideas. Exactly. Because when people ask the questions, when they let us know what's going on with them, then we can share ideas. We can answer the questions, and we can inspire each other. Right. So do that, whether it's in the group, ask them in the comments here. Again, you need to be in the group to be able to do that. So
come join the group.
I know. I feel like I'm just like plugging the hell out of the group, and that's not my intention at all. We just want to meet you.
It's a great place. It's okay. We should do it.
Join our cult. It's not like that. We just like to have you here.
Taco cult.
We've got some kind of big things on the horizon, some ideas we've really been floating around, and we want to know if you guys would be interested in something that we are thinking about doing next week. So we might not be live next week here. So what we want to know is if you guys would be interested in participating in a workshop that helps you identify your goals and creates a solid, clear path forward into action, into addressing those goals, creating that stable rock that we all need, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, if you're not in the group, you can't even answer that question.
So you got to join.
Yeah, I can't get away from the group promotion here, so I'm just gonna end it here, guys. Thanks for being here again. Ask the questions, and keep doing what you're doing in the group there. For our listeners, thanks for being here. I hope this helps, and we would love to meet you. But hey, if if you're a lurker like me, I'm that way. Keep on listening. Thanks for being here, guys. Let's keep lifting each other up. We love you. Bye.